grandson, nephew, young man. Let me holler at you. I'm doing this from my iPhone today. I think I cracked the screen protector on my Android. It has a better camera, but we're gonna go with this. We're gonna go with this iPhone today. All right. So as you develop into manhood, and this really applies to anybody and everybody, but I'm going to focus on my target audience, which is men. As you develop, you're going to go through growth phases. I don't care what age you are, what you know, what you don't know, you'll go through growth phases. Now, in a growth phase, there's an ugly phase. What do I mean by that? You can take darn near any example of anything that when a man is growing from a boy into a man and you hit puberty, you have awkward thoughts, awkward feelings. If you're getting tall, your arms may be longer uh, in proportion to the rest of your body. You may, if you're growing a beard, like I'm growing my beard right now, there's an ugly phase. So your best bet is to just let all of it grow so it can fully give you the best canvas to work on when you decide to line it up later. Even when you're growing a tree or a fruit, while it's growing, at one point it's not bearing fruit. It looks like a hybrid between a seed and some roots, and then it starts to bud, but it's not quite there yet. Some guys like to grow dreadlocks and grow hair. I ain't got no so that doesn't apply to me. But while it's growing, it hits a phase where it's not long, it ain't short. You know where it's going, but right now it's not pretty. Okay, so your progress as a man goes the same way. While you're learning how to play basketball and you're still short. Okay, well, you're not dunking, you're doing layups. Your body isn't fully developed. So you may have to get under the ball to shoot. Eventually, you'll blossom into a complete player. But in the meantime, you have to develop. You got to keep focus of what you know you're going to be. If you've been paying attention to this channel, then you've heard me speak on having your vision and understanding that nobody has to understand your vision but you. And your vision isn't just where what you want to achieve. You envision who you want to be, and then you grow yourself into that. Now, a lot of people are not going to understand your development, and that's totally okay. They're not the ones who are going through that process for you. Nobody can do it for you. In particular, let's focus on men developing their finances. When you start college and you first get your skill, before then, if you have no skill set, you're stuck with entry level work. I don't know, working at Walmart, working at the local dollar store, Sonic, the drive-in, whatever the case may be. You have to start somewhere. There's nothing wrong with that. And while you're starting off, I strongly suggest if you're young and you can still stay with your parents, do it. You don't have to jump out there in your growth and development phase as soon as you graduate high school and start throwing your money into an endless funnel of debt. Now, if your parents got to a starter home and you don't have any bills, God bless you. If you are going to be a parent, that's the way to start your kid off. put them in a position to win. Not everybody has that type of situation set up for them. So if you don't have that as a young developing man, it's okay, but you can stay with your parents. See, that's a growth phase. Okay, so you might be on a college campus where you got guys. Let me tell you something. When you go to college as a freshman, you're gonna see dudes there with, uh, these Hellcats and Chargers. If you're at a school where academics isn't the real focus, if you're at a state-funded college, um, you're gonna have people who are focused more on their image than they are on school. Now, if you go to a serious academic institution, you're gonna see a lot less of that. But that's because people who have a wealth mindset, they don't care about what they look like during the growth phase. As a matter of fact, if you're talking about people who come from wealth, they're there for connections. Them women are there to find a husband. Those guys are there to connect with like-minded people. They already come from wealth. But if you're at a state-funded college, you'll see a lot of guys. They're getting these student loan refunds. They're 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 using those student loan refunds. They're adding to debt later on, but they buying cars and rims and jewelry and clothes and stuff like that. They might even be working 2 or 3 jobs just so they can buy things. And yeah, at that time, for short-sighted females and stuff like that, yeah, they're gonna pull more females than you, and they're gonna be more popular than you. They're not in a growth phase. They trying to show off and show out, and they're not even there on their purpose. People like that, if they last more than a semester, they lucky. Most of the time, people like that flunk out. But see, you in your growth phase, you in your sweatpants with your school's logo, and you just trying to get to class, and that's what you need to be doing. You might be late for class and got to get there in your pajamas just so you can get there on time. But you're in a growth phase. Don't be ashamed of that. You might be driving the best vehicle that you could afford with your own money or whatever your parents bought you, and it's not a Mercedes and it's not a Charger or a Hellcat yet. Don't be ashamed of that. You're in a growth phase. You get out of college, you still have to take entry level work. You're in a growth phase. That doesn't mean millions of dollars right away. That doesn't mean a six-figure salary right away, depending on what your major might be. You may have to grow and develop into that. You start a business, you're definitely going to be in a growth phase from 3 to 5 years on average. And any type of business text that has any type of decent research will tell you that. So in that growth phase, that ain't the time to be trying to travel. That's not the time to be splurging your money. That's the time to be reinvesting and making your business grow in stability, not looks. It's not about looks, it's about where you're going. It's about achieving a desired result. Your starter home, your first home, may not be spectacular. It's about what you're growing into. And don't you let these women have you where you're spending your money that you don't have and you're spending away your growth potential. You front load your work, you save, you practice delayed gratification, you'll indeed get where you need to go. But you have to endure that growth phase. Not only does it not look pretty, it doesn't feel pretty. If you're like me, I did watch my dad start. He did hustles. He didn't know how to start a business formally, and he always generated cash. He generated revenue, but he didn't understand how money worked. Therefore, I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs per se, but I've observed, I've read, I've studied, and I've created opportunities for my family, which they own. I just help with. Ownership and control are two different things. Learn the difference. 50 Cent can tell you about that. The rapper 50 Cent. He ain't the only one. He just talks about it though, and that's good to understand that concept and how uh, you know how things work within your organization is your business. You just make sure your people are taken care of and that you're all protected. Now, because you want to protect your wealth, that's another thing. While you're in that growth phase, you're developing structures that are going to protect your wealth. Oh, look at okay. One of my former students chimed in briefly. He called me by my name, so I'm gonna delete that comment. I don't know if y'all are gonna be able to see it though. We're gonna see. But if not, I mean, you can't hide that kind of stuff forever. But we'll see. I'll see if I can get that out of there later. Anyway, my man blew my cover. All right. Anyhow, in that growth phase, crossing over a river. Now I might be digitizing. I don't know. If it is, just fast forward through it. But then again, I guess if I'm digitizing, you didn't hear what I just said anyway. In that growth phase, don't have people trying to, don't you be trying to keep up with the Joneses, trying to buy stuff you don't need to look a certain way. The only, the only thing I can say about that is there are some exceptions, but you can still keep those exceptions inexpensive. So, for example, you might need to purchase a suit or two. My brother's going through that right now. I told him to go from one place to another, and he wasn't able to sell some things he had bought. Uh, he had to give away some things, but he said, "Man, I would like to keep my wardrobe." And I said, "Hey, you need to for where you're going in life and some of the places that you need to go to make the right impression." Okay, that was a good investment. There's a difference. See, that investment is part of your growth process. If you're buying something that's an asset to you, and in that case, something that's going to help you network, that is, and that's an asset. If it's going to get you into doors where you can be able to have conversations with people you need to have them with, and you can be able to connect with people who can help you later on, and you can help each other and grow your network. You need to do that. That's okay as long as it's in your budget. But with your wardrobe, look, I'm at the stage of life I don't buy fancy clothes anymore. So, um, I buy stuff like that I don't even like. I buy that from Goodwill and get it tailored. You go to the Goodwill or a thrift store on the wealthy side of town. A lot of times, dealers in some of those retail stores will discard stuff and write it off on their taxes. In other words, if it didn't sell, they take it to Goodwill, and that's how you see things that have brand new tags on them. So they have brand new clothes there. I don't need fancy suits and stuff like that right now. My our the things that are carrying me and my tribe to where we need to go are blue collar skills. So that's really not, I'm in a bit of a growth phase myself. So stuff like that isn't necessary. So in other words, this organization that's been built for me and mine on my behalf, that's owned by my tribe, it's in a growth phase. There's revenue, but there's expenses. And in that process, like I said, it's not time to travel. It's not time uh to buy toys. It's time to buy tools. It's time to reinvest. It's time to take courses. It's time to build strategic. It's time to pay CPAs. It's time to pay lawyers. It's time to plan estates. It's time to plan for the next generation. A lot of people don't understand what I'm doing right now, and that's okay. It ain't for them to understand. It looks a certain way to certain people. I'm okay with that. As a matter of fact, Because people don't realize that growth phase looks like work. If you knew what the bottom line was, meaning for those if you don't know what that term actually means, they're talking about the bottom line on a spreadsheet, the bottom line on a balance sheet. Bottom line is what assets versus liabilities, and whether or not you have a surplus. I know what's really happening. Other people don't. I'm okay with that because I know where I'm going, and I'm not about to let anybody get me off track. I know the work I need to do. I know the hours I need to put in. I know what I need to save. I know what I don't need to spend. I know what I need to learn. I know I'm not going to be able to go to every social event. I know some people are going to underestimate me, totally write me off, or even not even have an idea what's going on. And you know what? That's beautiful because the more you got going and people don't recognize what you got going, the less people you have trying to stop you and creating barriers and things of that nature. So, anyhow, like I'm looking at some guys, they're working a lawn service, so they must have this contract at this Walmart. I'm stopping that. And lawn service ain't pretty, but I tell you what, I bet you that's a nice contract they got with this Walmart. I bet you they getting paid. I'm looking at how much equipment is on the back of that truck. These people ain't just up here earning no chump change. They may be just starting, they may be well established. Who knows? That ain't my business. That's their growth phase, not mine. But anyway, embrace that growth phase, understand what it is. Don't be ashamed of it. It's a beautiful thing. You learn lessons along the way with that growth phase that are going to stick with you for a lifetime. You can't learn those in a classroom. So embrace it. It's a beautiful process. And when you come out, not only do you appreciate what you have, but you learn how not to lose it. Excuse me. Hey, but you do have to use it or lose it. And as always, never lose the will to win, never lose the will to survive.